to sit, started feeling so alive. Coffee in the morning, it's the best way to survive. Woke up in the morning, sleepy eyes yawning. Jumped out of bed, started the day, opened the curtains. Felt the cool breeze, the sun shining on my face. But something was missing, I needed my job to chase. Give me coffee in the morning, give me coffee in the morning. Gotta have the coffee, wake me up, shake me up, dip me back a messy. 1 sip, 2 sips, started feeling so alive. Coffee in the morning, it's the best way to survive. Felt the cool breeze, the sun shining on my face. But something was missing, I needed my job to chase. Give me coffee in the morning, give me coffee in the morning. Gotta have the coffee, wake me up, shake me up, dip me back a messy. 1 sip, 2 sips, started feeling so alive. Give me coffee in the morning, gotta have the coffee, wake me up, shake me up, dip me back a messy. 1 sip, 2 sips, started feeling so alive.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
I think I feel a little better. I couldn't get my hot coffee, but I did have some cold coffee in the refrigerator, and I'm able to drink that. So I'm like, yay.
Right.
I just wasn't in the mood for anything hot. And normally, if I don't feel good, I don't want my coffee, but I always want coffee. You know what I mean? So I got cold coffee this morning, guys. Mocha cold coffee.
Hey, whatever does the trick.
Exactly. You know, I had a kind of a rough night, but it is what it is. But I feel better since I woke back up. Woke up in the middle of the night with all that yuckiness, but I feel a little better now. Grandbaby's better. He's gone back to school, so I got a peaceful day. But welcome in, everybody. We got some case updates to get to. Something came down this morning that I noticed that was new that I wanted to share with you guys as well. But before we get started, I know notifications went out on my phone for the stream, so we'll let people trickle in. Good morning, 12. I'm glad to see you back. I was hoping you didn't let trolley people get to you, dude, because you're too kind. So don't let that shit bother you. It is what it is. You do you. And that last show you did, I found I enjoyed it, so I'm glad to see you're back. Yeah, don't risk a caffeine withdrawal. That's not good for me, Pokemon. If I don't have caffeine, I live on too much caffeine, honestly, but it is what it is. If I don't have coffee, I usually got some kind of Coke. But anyway, so before we get started on what we're going to talk about today, I don't know how many of you guys were able to join Joe's live last night. But Joe had a very interesting stream. He had a very special guest, Megan Connor. Joe, you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure, absolutely. So I met somebody at the December hearings who follows Megan, and I hadn't been following Megan before that. And she's like, "You got to follow her, and you got to follow Lori's son, who's at Colby, and you got to follow."
Let them know who Megan is.
So Megan is Lori Vallow Daybell's cousin. And I don't know about you all, but I have cousins that I see like once every 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wanted to explore that last night. Like, how well did she actually know Lori? And she said that they were there every single summer and multiple other times throughout the year and spent time with the Cox family. That's Lori Vallow Daybell's maiden name is Cox. So she was actually very familiar with Lori, and we kind of explored that last night. But Megan also grew up in the Mormon church, so she has a unique perspective on growing up Mormon and Lori growing up Mormon and the difference between her household. So she said she's like a seventh generation Mormon, and it was a very strict household, and it was like you don't do shopping on Sunday. And that's very similar to the household that I grew up in. We weren't even allowed to watch TV on Sunday at one point.
When she said that, it reminded me of my grandmother, and I was like, I was telling you, I was raised Southern Baptist. We're in the Bible Belt, and on the Lord's Day, you didn't do work. Like if you needed school clothes washed up for the week, you better do them on Saturday because you weren't doing them on Sunday in Granny's house. You
Yeah.
just you weren't cleaning on Sunday. That was your day of rest. You
Right.
didn't do
And you don't even go out shopping or eating at
Mm-mm.
restaurants or anything, because then you're making other people work on the Lord's Day, right? On the Sabbath.
Right. Do you remember when we were kids, like a lot of places weren't even open on Sundays? And then
Yes.
when they began to open up, they had very limited hours. And that was I can remember that being a big topic of conversation when I was a little kid in the 70s. About places opening up on Sundays.
Yeah. And it did with me as well, because and what's funny is, so I have five brothers and sisters. So there are six of us. There are six siblings, and we range in age, or from birth dates from 1967 to 1982. So, but the younger siblings were raised in the 80s, and us older siblings were raised in the 70s, more or less.
Yeah.
And there was a different set of rules for us than there were for the second
Uh-huh.
kids.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to watch TV on Sunday. We weren't allowed to go shopping, go out to eat, any of that. And of course, they got away with a whole lot more. Like my youngest three siblings got away with a whole lot.
Yeah. And it was interesting that she said that whenever they would go to visit Lori's family during the summer, they were a lot more relaxed Mormon style. did
Exactly. Yes.
did things that she wasn't used to seeing, but she thought it was cool there because apparently Lori's family had some money and they had a pool in the backyard, and little kids are impressed by that stuff, and they had horses, and so she had a lot of fun visiting them as a child. But she gave a lot of good insight into Lori and to herself and to the Mormon church. And I encourage you guys, if you didn't get to catch that last night, go catch it on the replay because it's very informative, and especially when she talks about Lori and the belief system, because I think that really got lost in the case. Because like I've said before, a lot of creators wanted to go down that sex, love, and money rabbit hole with Lori and Chad, but it went much, much deeper into their belief system. And Megan kind of helps explain that a little bit there. So I enjoyed it, Joe, and I appreciate you doing it. You did a really good job on the interview.
Well, I appreciate that. I love the positive feedback. I don't think we had enough people in the live, like for the relevance of that interview. We should have had like 10,000 people in that chat, because
Well,
she just gave so much insight, and that has nothing
yeah,
to do with me, has all to do with her. She was so open and willing to share. She talked about the weird vibes that were in the Cox household, like the brothers and sisters grabbing each other's body parts and stuff like that. And I was like,
yes.
what?
And then, like I told you, that was some stuff we had heard in the beginning, like, years ago with Lori and Alex, the brother that helped her commit her crimes. That there may have been some inappropriate type relationship between the two, and when Megan began to talk about that, I was like, whoa, touchy feely with your siblings is a little much there, but it made sense
Yeah.
when I compared to what I had heard. Um, Um, yeah, she summed up. There we go. She summed up how Lori got where she's at. She did. And Joe, and interestingly enough, when she was talking about Lori's father, that kind of resonated, with maybe Lori's a lot like her dad,
Yeah.
kind of
She
thing.
is her father's
Um,
daughter. Definitely.
right? Like I say, I'm my grandfather's granddaughter. It is what it is. That's why I cuss like I do. But can't help it. But I do encourage you guys to go because I was always interested in the deeper dive into the religious aspect of it. I know that's a touchy subject with a lot of people, but it's something that needs to be discussed, at times, especially, and it's not just in the Mormon church, like she said. what does she call it, Joe? With
high demand religion.
high demand religions, and we know they exist. And I'm not knocking religion. I was raised going to church, and my sister is heavily involved in her church. I have no problems with all that. But there's a lot of demands from some of these religions that may be hard to live up to. And Megan, I'm sorry, I apologize, Megan. um, she felt that, she wondered what was wrong with her, because she continually got told to just go pray about it, and it would work out or whatever. And so it's still it great, guys. Yes, there, Megan's channel is there in the chat. I think most of you are subscribed up to Joe. If not, we'll drop his channel link as well. For those of you who may be new to our channels and just discovering us, that way you can get over there and watch his video as well. Joe, will you drop your link in there as well, or Pokemon? So, yeah, it was a great interview, guys. I do encourage you to go and watch it, because it delved into a little more than just that sex, and money aspect of Lori and Chad's relationship. Um, and Megan, I'm gonna say it wrong every time. I bless her heart. She really leaned into what Chad and Lori's beliefs were, and shows some insight as to why Lori stood up at the end of her trial in Idaho and said no one was murdered here. And when you watch Megan speak about that, you get what Lori meant by that. So
Yeah, and she said that the book that Chad wrote, and gosh darn it, I'm going to have to go in and look at that again. I don't want to give him any more like
oh
publicity
yeah.
at all. But she said that book that he wrote, Lori carried under her arm like more religiously than she carried around the Book of Mormon. Like she
Mm-hmm.
carried that book around everywhere. It was dog-eared, it was
Mm-hmm.
highlighted. Like that
Yeah.
was her guiding light, was that book that Chad Daybell wrote, and I've got to check that out because it's bizarre to
Yeah.
me.
He created a publishing company, right, with a partner, and then began to write his bizarre books about the prophecies that he was seeing, his, past life experiences, the portals, the demons, evil spirits that come in and possess your loved ones' bodies and things of that nature. So, and Pokemon is right. She was super engaging and very well spoken and easy to understand, wasn't she? She's very relatable. Um, so I enjoyed it, but I do encourage you guys to go watch it. Look at there, 15 watching and only 7 likes. Yeah, guys, please take a moment to hit the like button, because we're getting a lot of views. I'm just not getting a lot of likes on the like button. And for whatever reason, YouTube enjoys that. And so, um,
Yeah, not only is she super engaging, super well spoken, she was so open with her life story, and she
mhm,
did not hesitate to answer my questions. I could tell there were a couple times where I was like treading in uncomfortable waters, and I backed away from those, like
yes,
immediately. I didn't want to lead her in down any uncomfortable paths, but
right.
she's also come out through the other side. So she has written a couple of books, and one of them is like, I walked through the fire to get here. And she had a really, really rough childhood. She was the victim of sex trafficking at a very young age.
And
And
she spoke
and her
about that, and she's very open about her past, and like I was telling Joe, that can be very healing. And I feel like what she's doing is giving, like you said, Joe, giving people a safe place to come who have experienced the Mormon church and grew up in it, and left it and things of that nature. Um, it's a very safe space to go in and just hang out and be with people who experience the same experiences.
right, and not even just the Mormon Church, but she's a
Hmm.
life coach now, and she helps people deal with issues that can be like bullying, or it can be high demand religion, or it can be in cases where you're the victim of like a very toxic relationship. She's a life coach now, and that's amazing that she has come through what she went through to be where she is today. So I'm going to post a link to her website too in chat. It's
That's
called
great.
Third Verse. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, do that, because I have not had a chance to go and check out her website yet, but I did want to do that, so I appreciate it. And Sinead, you're right. That sometimes I lay in bed and watch YouTube on my TV, like, instead of the phone. Sometimes I lay the phone beside me and watch it like that. It depends on my mood and my laziness. But we get it. We get it. You and because Lori is coming up on trial for the murder of her husband Charles Vallow and the attempted murder on her niece's husband, Brandon Boudreaux. Those are the Arizona cases there, and she's there now. So Maricopa County is one of the largest counties, and they have one of the largest county jails. And if you ever watch things like Lockup and things like that, boy, there's a lot that goes on in Maricopa County. It's always interested me. So the fact that Lori got sent there and that she doesn't like it and wants to go back to Idaho, too bad, Lori. Stay right where you're at and enjoy Maricopa County, because I've heard it's not the place to be. So, all right. Well, with that said, we're going to start the day's show. Something dropped this morning that I saw that I wanted to share with you guys, and I'm sharing because it is a case. Oops, sorry. This thing wanted to start playing. Tomorrow marks the anniversary of Libby and Abby departing this world. Or today, what was it, the 14th, Joe? Yeah, it was on Valentine's. No, they were found on Valentine's Day, so it would be today. So the gag order was lifted in the case, and Libby's grandparents actually spoke out with the news media. And I'm going to put up a warning here, not a warning, just a little statement, because I know how triggering this case can be, and I know people feel some kind of way, but this is the way I feel about all parents and victims. You don't have to agree with what they say. You can think they're crazy. You can think that they've been lied to, fooled, whatever you believe, but don't trash them in the comment section, because that's not cool. Be an adult about it. We don't have to agree with everything we ever hear, but we are adults, not kids on the playground. And we should be able to agree to disagree with things without attacking people. And no matter how I have my feelings on Mike and Becky as well, but they're not negative. I just don't want to see chat going after them, because they have the right, just like Steve Gonsalves and Christy Gonsalves, to say whatever the hell they want, because we're up here doing the same thing. So with that said, I want to bring up this screen and play this piece for you guys. And there was I just got the feeling that there was, I don't know, I'll explain as it plays. So this was from Fox 59 News, an exclusive interview that they sat down with them to do. And I'm going to start that.
Tomorrow marks 8 years since Libby German and Abby Williams were killed on a hike in Delphi. And this was during a day off from school. The murders made national headlines, and their families waited years for justice. Then recently, a jury delivered a verdict. That happened just last November. And tonight, only on Fox 59, we're hearing from Libby's grandparents in an exclusive interview.
It comes just days after our Rafael Sanchez sat down with Mike and Becky Patty for time since the verdict and sentence were handed down. They talked about the case, the leaked photos, pending appeals from Richard Allen.
Abby Williams and Libby German should be finishing up their senior year in college with eyes on graduation, but that was among the many milestones stolen from their families.
2 girls lost their lives, and a monster took it.
The families who say they found justice at Earl County Courthouse. A jury convicted Richard Allen in November 2024. Allen was sentenced to 130 years in state prison for killing the teenage girls. Their bodies found on February the 14th, Valentine's Day 17, not far from the old Monon High Bridge in Delphi.
Are you at peace with the verdict, or do you struggle with the verdict?
No, the verdict was fair and just. I mean, that is our justice system, and it worked just as intended. It won't bring the girls back. That'll never happen, but at least this He can't do this to somebody else's family.
Since 2017, I've sat with Libby's grandparents many times in this kitchen area to talk about the girls. This was our first time together since the trial, without a court-imposed gag order.
Was there a piece of evidence as you saw the jury, as the courtroom was full of people, that you thought, or pieces of testimony, or we know in our heart what we know, but this is it. This is the evidence that jury of 12 and the alternates will say it has to be guilty.
And there was too many factors that all pointed directly to Richard Allen.
One of the things that made me go, oh, was during the interview when his wife came in and said to him, but you said you weren't on the bridge.
They believe their client, in their word, is innocent and should not be in state prison. It is their belief that the wrong person is in custody.
Let's jump from Odinism to now Ron Logan. The defense was 100% convinced this is Odinism. Read their actions, not their words. They're just trying to find something to stick against the wall. Richard could put a stop to this.
The Pattys gave high marks to Judge Fran Gull for keeping the trial on track
She stood firm.
and praised law enforcement for cracking the case.
They were so highly committed to this.
During the trial, they say they found comfort when jurors asked questions. It signaled to them that they were paying attention. The Pattys are critical of Allen's legal defense team, not for doing their job, but for failing to protect key evidence that ended up on the internet.
And Attorney Baldwin called the removal of the crime scene photos from his office, his words, a dramatic mistake that had nothing to do with the leak.
His mistake that we live with forever, unless he could get every single photo off the internet, and that's impossible. So yeah, it's definitely a dramatic mistake. He may not have shared those photos, but he left them unattended.
They were his responsibility.
Do you believe that legal team, through the normal course of what the Supreme Court does, should they face any discipline for their action?
I would leave that up to the courts and the professional.
For them, 2025 is about taking back their lives.
How are you preparing for the appeals journey?
I'm not. Just like I kind of just turned it over to God and said, I have to trust that the people will see, that they will see the truth.
He will always be to me, no matter what kind of appeal.
Their focus will not be on any courtroom, but cradling the needs of their family and sharing the love of two girls who did not get a chance to live their lives. In Delphi, Rafael Sanchez, Fox 59.
There's a couple of things they said that I can agree on. And one thing that always did bother me a little bit was Kathy saying to Rick, you never said you were on the bridge that day. If he said he went out there and he did go on the bridge, why didn't he tell her that? Maybe it just, I don't see how it didn't come up. And then, about protecting the crime scene photos, that could have been that could have been handled better, but they feel the way they feel, Joe, do you have any thoughts about it?
Yeah, I know for a fact that from the very beginning, the day that Richard Allen was arrested, Mike and Becky have been, he's the guy, he's guilty from the very beginning. Like that has been their opinion from the very beginning, that the police got the right guy. The police did their job, even though it took them 5.5 years.
Well, they didn't do it. Kathy did it, but yeah.
Right. I see what they're saying, and I see what they're feeling more than what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because they lost their granddaughter in a horrific, violent crime, and the police caught somebody, and that person was convicted and sentenced. So we don't have to agree with them 100% that the police necessarily caught the right guy or the only guy that was responsible, but you do have to respect their feelings as grandparents that basically raised Libby from a
Mhm.
very young age. They were, like he said in an earlier interview, the one that I posted a
Mhm.
couple of episodes ago, they got to be parents and grandparents to Libby. So they feel a certain way. And they're the ones that paid to have that memorial park, that softball park built. And it's a
Yep.
really cool park, and it's a really great memorial to Abby and Libby. And they
Yeah.
paid for that out of their own pocket. So
Yeah, and I know people, have their questions about Rick Allen's guilt or innocence, but we can have our feelings, but we don't need to impose them on the family. Just like with the Gonzalez and the Idaho Four and the families there, they're going to feel the way they feel. They're going to, and for people to come out and just automatically attack families for speaking out or sharing their thoughts, even if you don't agree, I think is so childish, and I'm so sick of seeing it. Like I said, you can respectfully disagree, but you don't have to go out and trash them. Oh, they're stupid. They've been fooled. They've been lied to. Maybe, but it's it can be handled and talked about in a way that you don't trash them, and that's something I don't like. So but this chat doesn't, we're not like that here, but you never know when someone's going to come in and try that. So I wanted to put up that little banner in the meantime because I don't like it when that happens.
yeah, don't attack the families, even if you think they're dead wrong in their opinion of who the guilty person is. You don't attack them because they're victims too. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they are. Just it's not just the deceased people that are victims, it's also the families of those people that love them that are also victims. So
Yeah, and can you imagine having to wait all those years for an arrest and then all the rumors? And one thing Mike said that I did agree with, they you go from Odinism, now we're back to Ron Logan. It's like we got to pick one. That's like with Idaho, with all the multiple theories, pick one. Pick one and stick with it. Don't come at me with all the tunnels, the frat boys, the money laundering, the drugs, all these. They can't all be happening. I guess they could, but pick one of your rabbit holes, go down it, find some receipts, and come back up with them. Otherwise, sit down. That's the way I feel about it. And the Odinism stuff wasn't rumor; it was, developed out of the state's case. So we'll see. But I saw that this morning, and I thought, well, I'm gonna, share that, and share their thoughts because they have the right to speak out and share how they feel. They do.
yeah, and his opinion was the defense is just trying to throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks. And I'm like, most of us who have done deeper dives into it believe that there is a nexus to some type of third party, whether it's Ron Logan's confessions in jail or it's Elvis Field saying, well, what if my spit was found on one of the girls? Most of us believe there's a nexus to some type of third party involvement in it. And
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going to go after Mike for feeling the way that he feels. He has the right
Right.
to feel that way, and he has the right to
Right.
speak out about it. And
Well, we know there was a nexus. So how, thoroughly were those other people investigated? That's the whole thing. We didn't get to see how thoroughly they were investigated because it wasn't allowed to come in. And they're cleared, they're cleared, they're cleared. So when you have prosecuting attorneys on your case telling you that, as a parent, you're going to be inclined to believe all that, right? And USA Libertarian also, Kathy said that Holman had just told her that Rick was the murderer. He did. We know all of that. Jonah have covered this extensively. He lied to her, told her they already had voice analysis. That was Rick's voice on the video when that wasn't true at that point in time. He told her a lot of things that were not true. But she did ask her husband, why didn't you tell me you were on the bridge that day? He told her he went out there, but he never told her he went on the bridge, which we all know he did. Why would he leave that part out? That bothers me a little bit. I still have.
well, somebody mentioned in chat that
Mhm.
because of his heart issue and the condition of the bridge, that she didn't like him going on the bridge when he went out there. So he left that part out because he didn't want to tell her that he was endangering himself by going out on a broken
Yeah, did
down
we know that
bridge.
for sure? I
And
mean,
no,
he was
that's
drinking
speculation.
beer. Okay, so you got a heart condition, and you're going to drink some beer, and then go walk out on a dangerous bridge, and then lie to your wife about it. Okay, I guess some people just lie to their spouses constantly. But if you had a heart condition, you can still move around, you can still walk, you can still function. A lot of people, if you can't, you're staying at home on your little machines and your medications. But I just, I'm not saying Rick Allen's guilty because I'm not convinced. I see the issues in the case.
I'm not convinced either way that he's factually innocent or
Right,
factually guilty
right.
or involved in some way. I'm not convinced either way at this point.
Me neither. And the fact that we got, and like I said, I kind of didn't want to. I had felt some kind of way because when we realized that the defense had that footage of that white van coming in at a different time than what the prosecution claimed, that wasn't even brought up in court. It's like, really? That would have been the first thing I brought up. I wouldn't have handed Weber a subpoena on the stand. I'd have walked up there and approached and said, "Excuse me, sir, this video I'm about to play shows you coming in at a different time." Now, there's discrepancies about when that was discovered in the discovery. But if it was discovered late, so late to the point you got it the day before trial or during trial, take that up with the Supreme Court and the judge, because that's a problem. That is prosecution sanctions should be in place for not turning over evidence in time, just like in Idaho when Lori got the DP off the table because the prosecutors over there didn't turn over their evidence in time. They failed to meet a deadline and got sanctioned, and the DP was taken completely off the table for Lori Vallow. That's why everybody over there worried about Kohberger's not getting his discovery and blah, blah, blah. Well, got to remind yourself, the DP can come right off the table if that prosecution fails to meet their deadlines. And if they don't ask for an extension, and then if the judge grants it, that's one thing. But to flat out miss it, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah. Need some Z's and V. He admitted I think it was to Doolin in his first interview with Doolin that he had like 3 beers that day. It may have been in a later interrogation with Holman or Mullen, but I believe it was with Doolin where he admitted that he had like 3 beers and went out to the trail that day. So he self-admitted that. Yes, he admitted that.
Yeah, we are not about putting out misinformation over here if we can back it up. And if you go back and look at our streams, Joe has streams, I have streams. He said that himself. He went over to his mom's house. Where was that, Peru, Joe?
Yes, Peru or Mexico, which are right next to each other.
Yeah, I know he grew up in Mexico. So he goes to mom's that day for a visit. Mom and sister wanted to go to lunch. Rick didn't want to go to lunch. He told them no. Instead, he said he left, went and bought some beer, drank at least 3 of those beers, and then went out to the Monon High Bridge and went for a walk. So, yeah, that's where that came from, out of Rick Allen's own mouth. That's not just, so we try our best to keep it factual here as we possibly can. We will discuss theories and all that good stuff, but we really are trying to, we don't put stuff out there that we don't know that's not backed up in documents. Alan didn't say, where'd it go? Sorry, V, I missed it. No, he didn't say beers. That was part of a rambled psychotic prison okay, I'm not going to argue it, but
I'm 99% sure that Doolin said that he told Doolin that he had 3 beers that day.
Alan didn't say he was wearing exact same clothes as described, them slightly different, not the same time, Doolin alleged. He did describe what he was wearing that day. The thing is, you can be at the bridge all day long. There were a lot of people out there. Just because he was there, don't mean he did it. Just because he was caught on a video on Libby's phone hundreds of yards way behind the girls and then zoomed in by some magical video. I mean, he wasn't the only one on the bridge that day, but he was dressed similar and things like that. That still doesn't mean he did it.
As are 80% of men in Indiana in February. They all wear.
And in Florida, I'm in hunting country. These dudes all look the same. If you go out into the woods and you're going to see like 50 dudes in camo, you know what I'm saying? And the Carhartts are very popular here too, the jackets and things. It's not an uncommon look for Southern or country type people. So, yeah. But yeah, we all got problems with Doolin and his little reports. Trust me, we get it. We get it. And my biggest problem with Doolin is you met the man in person, you saw what he looked like, and you heard his voice. But yet, for 5 solid years, when your fellow police officers were up there begging for help, it never once dawned on Doolin, that dude I interviewed, maybe we should look at him again, right? Not one time did he bring that up. That's always bothered me. So,
V, you're going to make me break out my court notes, dang it. I was there the day that Doolin testified, and I got my court notes sitting around somewhere, and I'm just wondering if I wrote that down when Doolin said it.
You'll have to go back through that, Joe. It's probably on one of your lives when you discussed it.
Yeah, probably so.
But he didn't. He didn't, but why would you trust? I don't trust Doolin. I don't think none of us do. And the fact that he still had his report on his computer all those years later, we're not saying Doolin's right and Rick Allen's, guilty here. That's not what we're saying. There are issues with Doolin's statement and Doolin himself. Even going back over there to the Jesse case, Doolin done some shady shit over there. Go watch The Reckoning of Carroll County. You'll see all about what kind of fuckery Dan Doolin can do. So I don't trust Doolin at all. And yeah, Logan had the same exact outfit as well. But do we go with Odinism or do we go with Ron Logan? Or is Ron Logan tied to the Odinist? We got to make a nexus there somehow. We can't have both things happening.
Truth exposed. You make a good point, but it's not a valid point.
That's my point. So we're going to move on.
Sorry, I'm diving into Truth Exposed comment.
No, you go ahead.
It's hard for me to believe that 2 men, same build, same clothes, showed up at the park at the same doggone time. No, kind of they did, but eyewitnesses described 2 different builds and 2 different people, which is why there were 2 different sketches, number one. Number 2, there were lots of guys that were out there at that time. If you look at Derek German's testimony, he tells about all of the other people that he encountered when he went to go looking for Abby and Libby. He went out there and he encountered multiple men, and there were multiple people out there taking family photos. The last time I got my haircut in West Lafayette, my haircutter actually said that her family was scheduled to go out there for family photos that very day, and they had to cancel because of a work-related issue or something like that. So that was a very popular area. It was on a very unseasonably warm day. So it's very possible 2 guys, same build, similar clothes, showed up there that day. Very, very, very possible.
Very possible. And we all know Rick was short, but yeah, it's possible. And then you got Betsy Blair's description of Youngbridge guy. There was just a lot of discrepancies in what these and eyewitnesses. We've all learned, if you look at enough true crime, the authorities will tell you how unreliable an eyewitness statement can be. Sometimes they get it right and sometimes they don't.
So my brother-in-law sat in on a criminology class once down at IU. And the very first day, the professor had somebody come in and pretend to hold him up and then run out the other door. And then this professor asked all of the people that were sitting there to describe that person. And he got like 20 different descriptions of the person that people had literally just seen come in and pretend to rob this professor. So eyewitness testimony is traditionally very unreliable.
Yeah, it is. And we know there's like a lot of big rabbit holes with this case. And all of that, and that's why I'm not covering it a lot. I'm waiting on the appeals process to start, because I feel like I'm going to regurgitate a lot of stuff that we all already know, a lot of facts that we all already know. No one's going to listen to me up here ranting and raving about Libby's phone. No one's going to. Who's going to listen? Judge Gall? Is she going to tune in and go, oh my God, she's right, I should have done this and that? No, it is time for the appeals process. And if the attorneys who handle the appeals process cannot bring it, Rick Allen's not getting out of prison. You know, yeah, the FBI did say that the FBI was convinced it was Ron Logan. The FBI was also convinced it was Odinist. You can't forget about the Odin report from the 3 FBI agents working the task force. You know, one of them was killed during the process. So, yeah. We're going to move on to a different subject now. We're going to turn to Bryan Kohberger, another high-profile case that gets lots of attention. I'm going to play a piece, and then we're going to take a look at we're going to look at a couple of things, actually. And we're also going to take a look at the case docket and show you some things that came down and what I think they might mean. Again, I'm not a lawyer, and I did not sleep at a Holiday Inn last night. I slept in my own bed, and I woke up in the middle of the night feeling really sick, so I'm not on top of my lawyer game today. Because Joe and I have been making jokes about sleeping at the Holiday Inn. So I had to throw that in there. This is a piece, and I know... All right, so God darn it. I hate that I even have to say this. A lot of people don't like who I'm about to play, because in the beginning of the Bryan Kohberger case, you know, she just reported the facts that were out there, and you couldn't speak bad about Bryan Kohberger anywhere in the beginning of this case on YouTube, or else you were called names and jumped on and blah, 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 blah. Whatever, I'm so over it. But this is a piece that I found this morning about a guy talking about some DNA, which is we all know is a big deal in the Idaho case right now. So let me get this up.
Can you help Bryan and me with something here? We were all just a little kind of...
Sorry, it started before I could tell you. Well, thank you, Truth Exposed. I am feeling better. My grandbaby went back, but after I went back to sleep, after, I don't know, about 3 o'clock this morning, I do now. So thank you for that. This is going to touch on the unknown DNAs that were found, and as to why they may not have been tested. Because we are all like, wait a minute, you found blood in that house on a handrail and it didn't get tested? Why? Is it because it was old, degraded, not close enough to the bodies? You know, what was going on here? So let's see what they have to say.
Flummoxed by the did not meet the criteria. The 2 other blood samples, the one from the railing in the house, don't know if it's first or second floor, basement or middle floor, or third floor, or the blood in the glove found outside. What does that mean when the prosecutors might say it didn't meet the criteria to feed it into CODIS to try to match it up with other people?
Well, good to be back with you, Ashley. Hello, Bryan. So here's the deal. CODIS users have to adhere to some strict eligibility guidelines before you can enter a profile. And that's because back when Congress enacted the law back in 1994 called the DNA Act, it recognized that the creation of this database would contain genetic data. So they wanted to ensure that only the genetic information from criminal perpetrators was entered. And so the evidence here must be linked to the perpetrator. So, for example, if you have a murder that takes place at a party house, that's what you correctly describe this house as, investigators could seize empty beer bottles. And if there's a DNA profile on the beer bottles and the investigators want to send it up to CODIS, they cannot. It's ineligible, because although it could be linked to a perpetrator, it could just as easily be linked to someone who's uninvolved. So they want to protect those who are uninvolved. So whether it's beer bottles or whether it's gloves found outside or handrails inside the house, which may or may not be linked to the floor where the murders occurred, it's the same thing. They're not eligible to be entered into CODIS.
It's so bizarre. I just assumed if there was blood on a piece of evidence anywhere in a house where 4 murders happened, you want to find out who those people are and then clear them. But it's shocking that CODIS has that kind of strict requirement. bizarre. And I get it. Having DNA, a speck of it on a knife sheath, that's a whole other ballgame, right? That's the murder
Very
weapon.
different.
How about this other issue? Right. How about this other issue that Brian and I were just talking about? And that is that Ann Taylor says, and I'll repeat it because the wording matters here. She said, police found absolutely no connection between Kohberger and anybody from 1122 King. There's no blood in his car. He wasn't connected to that house, to the people in that house. No blood in his car, but she doesn't say there was no blood in his apartment, no blood on his things. She stopped at car. Can we take her at face value that she meant all of that when she said no connection to the people in that house?
Ann Taylor is a savvy lawyer. When she says car, she means car. And I point you to the excellent argument from one counselor, Ashley Banfield, who said that that car wasn't found until 6 weeks after the murders. 6 weeks, a long time for someone who is a doctoral student, who's used to researching this kind of stuff, to know how to get rid of evidence, to wash the car, to be able to sanitize all the insides of the car. And I think that's what happened. I think this guy, to me, clearly did it, and he took great pains to try to dispose of all the evidence. And in the end, they have his DNA on the knife sheath. That's the biggest evidence here. They also have him driving the car that was used. They also have him using his cell phone before the murders to scope it out, although the cell phone was turned off during the murders. How interesting that the only time his cell phone was turned off was right during the murders. He's an unlucky guy, just like his alibi, where he said he was searching for stars, looking at stars at that time of night. No witnesses, of course. He was just out there stargazing in his hardtop Hyundai in the middle of winter. Okay.
Yeah, those are all the things that jurors have to decide, is that reasonable? And sometimes they can get over it when it's just one thing that they have to leap over. But if there's a whole chain of weirdo stuff that they're meant to just gobble up, they start to, get sick over it. And that gut tells them too many coincidences, too many silly stories, too many coincidences that I'm not prepared to let go of. Real quickly, only a couple seconds left, Ehrenberg, but I do have to ask you about the fruit of the poisonous tree business. Do you think we're going to have one of those Franks hearings to determine if the way the FBI went into the public databases to get that genealogy linked to Kohberger's dad was not fair, according to the courts, and thus everything after it gets tossed in the garbage, which is kind of like the entire case almost?
Ashley, who has the privacy interest here? Whose rights are being harmed? Perhaps his distant relative, whose DNA should not have been accessed. But does Kohberger have an interest in his distant relative's DNA? No. He has no argument here, no claim. Dismissed. Not the case, by the way. His argument will be dismissed. Not the case. That's going to trial.
So do you think there's actually going to be a Franks hearing to decide that? Or is the judge just going to say, this doesn't even deserve a Franks hearing, let's just move on?
When in a high-profile case where he's facing the death penalty, they'll give him a Franks hearing. They'll give him every benefit of the doubt. But in the end, he ain't winning it.
I wonder if that'll delay things. I mean, look, we got a lot to fit in before July, August beginning. So thanks for watching.
You think he's going to get that Franks hearing?
I think if I'm the judge, that I'm granting it out of an abundance of caution that it doesn't become an issue on appeal.
Yes, sir. And I think the same way. Joe, stop. V, we didn't think you rage quit, hun. Your comments crack me up. There was a lot of good things that guy said there that make sense, but I was really curious about, and I understand running through CODIS and all that, but I guess they didn't do a genealogical profile workup on the blood sample from the stairwell blood sample that they found. And I don't know why. I did look up some information on that. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let me see what I wanted to, there was something I wanted to show you guys too. Let me get it back up here. All-inclusive luxury. And you'll remember this when I show it.
Did Ann say that at any time?
What?
Salty? That he was stargazing? That he was out?
Yes. That was his alibi.
Okay, because V says that wasn't said.
Yeah, it was. I can pull it up. We have it. We have the alibi notice. Okay, so she says that when he moved into town in June, July, whatever it was, he began to explore the Palouse area, and he found Wawa Park. He was an avid runner and hiker, but as the weather cooled off, he began to do more drives than the jogging, and he frequently traveled to go look at the moon and the stars. That is exactly what she said, and she claims that the night of the murders, that's exactly what he was doing, and that the state's own phone evidence would prove it. So we'll get to we'll pull that document up and we'll read what his little no witnesses, of course. He didn't stop at any stores, didn't stop for any gas, didn't stop for a cold drink, hot coffee because it was cold. None of that. He was just out driving around, stargazing on a cloudy, cold night in a hardtop car. So that said, I mean, I can't help what the guy's alibi was. I didn't make it up. It is what it is. He should have had a better one. I mean, even the people who really want to believe in this guy's innocence, when that alibi came out, they were floored. They were not happy. They made videos about it. They expected more to come out, but did not. Now, do you guys remember the other day we were watching, and we watched a piece about the top DNA expert in the world living in Idaho? Well, he testified at the Bell trial, and we'll look at that in a minute. His name is Greg Hampikian, and not that night. I'll show you what she said in court the other day, that he was in Moscow driving around too, but not over there. She said that night he was out driving, looking at the moon and the stars. What, if you don't think that's what she said, what did she say, hun? What was the alibi that you can remember? That's, you know, because I'm going to try to pull that document up here in a minute. Not exactly. She said I'm going to pull it up and let y'all read it. We'll read it, because she did say he was not. What did she say he was doing then? She didn't say he went to Wawa. She said he did go over to Wawa, but she didn't say he was like stargazing that night, but he was driving around, right? I guess y'all want the details, right? The detail is he claims he was out driving around in another direction, stargazing. That is exactly what he said in the alibi. And, you know, all right, well, we'll pull it up and look at it in a minute. Let me see this here. Which one did I want to show first? Let's see, let me look. And I'm going to read an article here in a little bit that some of y'all may not like, because I know people get sideways when you talk about Kohberger, but it's somebody who knew him, and I wanted to speak about that. So this is the guy, and I'm wondering, since he testified in the Chad Daybell, would he be called as a state witness in Idaho? This guy also is runs the Innocent Projects over there in Idaho, and he also worked on the Amanda Knox case and helped exonerate things. What has drawn you to this case? The college kids, the eyebrows. Are you from Idaho? Who are you talking to, Pokemon? Anybody that's just I'm not from Idaho. I was drawn to it because it was 4 kids murdered in a house and no one knew what happened. Okay, so let me pull this screen up and give you guys a little background on that guy that we learned about, because I'm super curious to see if he'll be on the state's witness list. Okay, Hampikian assisted in the establishment of various forensic evidence projects, such as the Georgia Innocent Projects, the Irish Innocence Project, the Innocent Project of France. He is currently professor in the Department of Biological Sciences and Criminal Justice at Boise State University. Hampikian is a DNA expert on the Georgia Innocence Project Board. Hampikian is a New York Times contributing columnist whose 2 most popular contributions to date have been Men Who Needs Them and When May I Shoot a Student? Wow. Okay. Hampikian has published in numerous scholarly scientific journals, including Nature and the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. Hampikian was inducted as a chapter fellow of the National Academy of Inventors. His inventions range from magnetic-shaped memory alloy micropump to a forensic DNA labeling kit that prevents contamination of samples given to police. Hampikian pioneered the study of DNA and protein sequences absent from nature and coined the term nullimers. Did I say that right? Hampikian lectures on science generally as well as DNA forensic evidence specifically nationwide. Hampikian is noticed for his work on several exonerations, both nationally and internationally, including his work on the Amanda Knox case.
Girl, I don't understand a word you just said.
He's an expert in the DNA field. That's our takeaway.
All right. I got it.
Right? That's one of my things right there. I loved it. I study the minds of criminals. I can't help it. I always have. Sometimes it's scary to go into their heads for a hot minute. You're like, whoa, I don't think I want to hang out in here long. Let me see if I have this. Let me pull something up here. Where's all my stuff at? Where'd it go? Oh. Yeah, those are some titles, right, V? Okay, let me see if I have this. Okay, hold on. Let me make this bigger. Okay, here's his alibi. Let's all read it together. It's been a hot minute since I've read it, so maybe I misquoted a few things, but this is what the woman said. Okay, so this is Bryan Kohberger's notice of defendant's supplemental response alibi demand. Mr. Kohberger moved to Pullman, Washington in June of 2022. As an avid runner and hiker, he explored many areas of the Palouse. Of note, he explored Wawawi Park in July of 2022, and this became a favorite location. After the school year began, Mr. Kohberger was busy with classes and work at Washington State University, and his running and hiking decreased but did not stop. Instead, his nighttime drives increased. This is supported by data from Mr. Kohberger's phone showing him in the countryside late at night and or early morning on several occasions. The phone data includes numerous photographs taken on several different late evenings and early mornings, including in November, depicting them. Mr. Kohberger was out driving in the early morning hours of November 13th, as he often did, to hike and run and see the moon and stars. He drove throughout the area south of Pullman, west of Moscow, including Wawawi Park. Partial corroboration. Mr. Kohberger intends to offer testimony of CSLI, C-S-L-I, and it tells you what that is, to show that Bryan's mobile device was south of Pullman, Washington, and west of Moscow, Idaho, on November 13th. That Bryan Kohberger's mobile device did not travel east on the Moscow-Pullman highway in the early morning hours of the 13th, and thus could not be the vehicle captured on video, along the Moscow-Pullman highway near Floyd's cannabis shop. Well, if you turned around and went back the other direction, it could be. And additional information as to Mr. Kohberger's whereabouts as the early morning morning hours progressed, including additional analysis by Mr. Ray, will be provided once the state provides discovery requested and now subject to an upcoming motion to compel. She got all that information eventually. If not disclosed, Mr. Ray's testimony will reveal the critical exculpatory evidence. Now, when Cy Ray got up on that witness stand and testified for Ann Taylor, he did not dispute that Nick Balance's information on the cast was wrong. He disputed on Mowry and the other detectives' interpretation of the cast report. He used to work with Nick Balance. He's got nothing bad to say about Nick Balance. Cy Ray also sat right there under oath and said, "I reserve the right to change my mind later." So, has something come down the pipe that he has seen and he has now changed his mind, or is he still working with the defense? So, there, I just read it. Yeah, he was out driving. That's the alibi, but where? Proof. You got to have, you can't just walk into court and say, well, I wasn't there. I was over there driving. You got to back it up somehow, some way. So the phone records have to. And Ann just said they were going to use, corroborating phone evidence, the same evidence she wants thrown out now. If that evidence was going to exonerate your client, and for a fact he didn't commit this and he was out driving around that night in an opposite direction, and that phone data is going to prove it, why do you want it thrown out?
So if she gets it thrown out, will she even need to call Cy back to the stand at all? Because isn't that his entire testimony is based on that?
Yeah, that's all he's testifying for. So she's not going to get it thrown out, though. I'm going to be surprised if they get any of the phone data stuff thrown out. It's all cast FBI stuff,
And did anything that she talked about in the latest hearings contradict what is in this filing?
This one? No, because she doesn't talk about this much anymore. She doesn't talk about his alibi. You know what I mean? Anymore, not since this came down. She offered an alibi, and the state's like, oh, really? Well, produce it. And then she didn't want to. And then she had to, because she'd already offered it up. And then when the alibi, we were all on waiting to get this alibi. And then when it came out, it was this. And we're like, oh. And I'm telling you, people who 1,000% back up Kohberger were like, damn, dude, really? That's the best you could do? And even if those people questioned it, it's just a little odd. I'm not saying the guy didn't do what this alibi says, because I don't know if the guy's guilty or innocent. I'm just not going to take this to heart. That's exactly true. He can't be the guy. He said he was out riding around. Well, they better have car camera footage showing he was out there riding around. Ann's already said his car's going the opposite direction, so she must have something to prove that, right? I understand that it's up to the prosecution to prove guilt or innocence, but Ann has to defend her client. She offered up an alibi. They did not demand it. You don't even have to give an alibi. Nothing wrong with driving around at night if that's what he was doing. The guy said he had insomnia. But don't y'all find it a little odd that on that same?
It's odd. It's suspect, but it's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's what we're still waiting on, right? Proof beyond a reasonable doubt. So
yeah.
If her counter to the phone extraction and phone locations is, well, yeah, he was driving around and he got around over there to Moscow. He went to Hawaii Park and he got to Moscow and he just kind of drove around, and that's his alibi. And the state says, well, that's proof that he was there near the scene. Like they're using that to place him at the scene of the crime. Then the burden does kind of shift to the defense to be like, well, yeah, maybe he was near there, but he wasn't there. So they do kind of have to come up with proof at a certain point. Like whatever the state provides that is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. If the defense wants to counter that, then yeah, the burden does shift to them if the state feels like they provided that proof.
Right. I mean, like I said, they didn't have to produce this alibi. It was something she offered. Because she said, we will provide proof of an alibi that this and that. And they're like, well, then turn that over. So she did. And then when it came out, it was this. And people were like, huh? Like I said, even the ones that supported the Kohberger innocence, they were floored by this. Like, that's it, you know? And you're driving and like I said, did the guy drive one way and then turn around and go back the other? Hell, we don't know. We don't know whatever other footage they have out there of the car. There better be something that they can prove that he was out driving around in the other direction, stargazing or just going for a drive. I don't have a problem with taking a late night drive if you are. I have insomnia. Um, I live in the country. I can take a long ass drive around the country, and my cell phone's going to come in and out in a couple of spots, and I know where those spots are located. So if this guy was used to driving around at night over there, he's going to know when that phone's not working in particular areas. I know the spots my phone's going to dip out of service for a little bit and come back on, but not for 2 damn hours.
And that's not normal behavior for the average person. They don't get up in the middle of the night and go for a drive in the middle of the night. Does that mean that he's guilty of murdering 4 people? Absolutely not.
Right.
And it's not quote unquote crazy, need some Z's. I don't consider it crazy. It is suspect. That's why a police officer, when they see a lone car going by them in the middle of the night at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, they might get in behind them and tail them for a while to see if they've been drinking and they're coming home from the bar. What are they doing? Because there aren't a lot of cars out on the road at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's just a fact of life. There aren't. So it's not crazy. It doesn't mean he's guilty, but it is, it does raise one's eyebrows. Why is he out at 3 o'clock in the morning driving around, 20, 30 miles away from where he lives? Why?
Well, I mean, like I said, taking a long country drive if you can't sleep, that's one thing. I'm not going to say he didn't do that, but when she said the state's own evidence will provide that, they're going to use the cast report and all that. Cy was going to analyze it and do his thing, but then Cy sat right there and said, I reserve the right to change my mind later, as he saw more evidence. Right now, we don't even know if he may still come to testify. But if you look at the docket from this morning, let me pull that up because there's a couple of interesting things on the case summary. There were a few docs that dropped there. We'll look at them, but not too pertinent. I mean, they're kind of sealed bullshit. But this case summary made me really wonder, are we about to get that Franks hearing? And like you said, and we were discussing that piece we just watched, is the judge, out of an abundance of caution, going to go ahead and give her that hearing, so that can't come back to bite them in the ass on appeal, right? She was definitely, and at least, by God, this judge is listening and willing to explore the possibility of a Franks motion, unlike over there in damn Delphi. Let me scroll down here to the. There's so much in this case file. 2 years worth of shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
Need Some Z's says, I think many people with insomnia might go driving. This is true. Many might.
Mm-hmm.
But in my experience, you lay in bed and you toss and turn and try and fall asleep.
That's my experience, Joe. That's mine. Mine was never to get up and get in the car and go drive. I probably would have aggravated myself. Mine's just like lay in bed, toss and turn, get up, walk outside, do whatever. Well, V, I'm a girl, and I'm not going to go in the middle of the night. My dad had 3 daughters. We were taught safety, 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 safety. So I'm not going to get out. My daddy would have kicked my ass as a grown woman if I got out in the middle of the night and took a long country drive. And anything could happen. A blowout, breakdown, whatever. But no, I'm just going to stay at home and I'm just going to get out and drive around. So I'm not saying that that's like, oh my God, that's super crazy. I think it's super crazy he did it that particular night, and why take the damn phone? Leave it on the bedside nightstand. oops, I forgot my phone 20 minutes away from the house. I wasn't going back to get it at that point. Let me pull up this screen. But if you somehow find that driving is helpful when you're likely, yes, Luthi, exactly. I mean, I can agree with that.
No. If driving puts you to sleep, then you shouldn't be driving.
Well, I mean, it depends on
I'm
how.
being totally
I
contrarian
know
here.
you're
I'm just
being
joking.
salty, Joe being salty, y'all. Yeah, I get it, Sleuthy. I mean, I wouldn't go for like a 2-3 hour drive because what if you fall asleep driving, right? Then you're in a world of trouble. But it can be relaxing. I like to go for drives. I can't anymore since my kid totaled my car, but driving for me cleared my mind, right? I was able to think a lot. I miss it because I would just go, and I live in the country, so I got a lot of places I can drive around, but I totally understand it. Let me get to these and get you guys' opinions on what came down and if they're related to the Frank's motion stuff. Let me get to it here. February. Come on, case file thingy. Okay, here we go. Let me pull up the screen. I'll show you what we're talking about here. And boy, we're still waiting on the documents to drop on the judge's decisions on the motions that Ann filed and his decision on the Frank's motion. Okay, so if you notice, can you guys see that? So we had some exhibits filed. I think it was yesterday or the day before. They were sealing some stuff up here, but this right here caught my eye. Down 12 on the 12th, a subpoena was issued, and then again another one, but this one was a subpoena tecum, and then another one. So that's 2, and then another regular subpoena. So we have 2 regular subpoenas and 2 with the subpoena ducus tecum. And what that means is you are required to bring in your documentation, your paperwork, and things of that nature with you. That is related to a Frank's hearing, because I don't recall anything else in the previous filings that would warrant subpoenas to come out at this point. Yeah, V, I can see that too. I can see both. Can you guys hear me? I don't hear Joe, so I don't know.
Yeah, you're here. You're good.
I can see both sides, right? But I'm not going to be tunnel visioned, and I'm not going to close my eyes and say, well, because certain people bring out certain things or make shady ass videos or blurry vision pictures telling you what's going on, and there's they're all watching the fight at the grub truck, all these things. No, I'm going to base all out of this. So I can see, yeah, you're out driving around, but I could also see the possibility you did what you did. Your DNA is on a sheath inside that house. So if you were nowhere near that house, how did it get there and why? And people want to say, well, they planted it. Why? Why Bryan Kohberger? How did they get his DNA sample to put onto the sheath? Did they swab him and then go stick it in there and then claim, oh, this is... No, because they already had the DNA profile and was already working the IgG. So they didn't steal Kohberger's DNA. They got it directly off the sheath. And now you still got to explain how your sheath got there. That is on you. If I committed a crime, I expect people to want me to explain why my DNA is on that sheath now. The state's got the proof. It's there. So how do you fight that, right? How do you do it?
Well, if he's out stargazing, and I'm going to copyright this phrase right now. Right now, I'm preliminarily copywriting it. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might, not leave my sheath behind tonight.
Oh my God. That reminds me of Jeff's little thing he put out. I was like, Jeff, you're going to catch so much hell over that. Yeah, Frank, it is exactly what you say. It's for the production of evidence. And it's not the first time those have been filed. The FBI received one of those, or, months ago, a year ago, if that. And so it's interesting to know what these particular ones are about, and if they are tied to a Frank's motion or Frank's hearing. Because the next thing, they don't have anything else listed until April 9th, another motion hearing, but we know that that's likely to change as things progress, especially as the judge comes down and makes his decisions on some of this, on some of Ann's motions that she's filed, wanting to get everything thrown out. We don't know how successful she'll be. We'll have to see. Let me pull up one more thing here.
Yeah, V, if he's not the guy, then there is a really, really evil person out there still. If Bryan Kohberger is not the guy, and this is kind of like how I feel in Delphi too. Like if Richard Allen's not the guy, who's out there still that killed, 2 teenage girls? Who's out there in Idaho that killed 4 college students? If these people are not guilty, not factually guilty.
Yeah, the fact that there's everybody's with that single source male DNA was found. Everything's got touch DNA on it. We all know that. That argument has been argued for 2 solid years. Touch DNA, transfer DNA, single cell male DNA. It's on a DNA on a movable object, but how did his DNA get on that movable object? At some point we have to question that. For those who don't believe he's guilty, and you have the right to do that, how do you explain the knife sheath? Do you know what I mean? With his DNA on it. That doesn't prove he did anything. I get it. But it's in the Delphi case, we all demanded that there needed to be DNA of Richard Allen's at the crime scene, and there wasn't. They all demanded to know why the FBI was kicked out and why weren't they still working the case. But over here, we don't like the FBI, and we don't like your IgG, and we don't like your DNA. But we wanted those in the Delphi case. So I want them in all cases, and I don't pick and choose. And I don't base my thoughts on guilt or innocence as to the way the crowd is moving. You know what I mean? I try to look at it from both sides logically. And so far, Ann hasn't shown me a whole lot to get excited about, honestly.
Yeah, I thought the defense in Delphi had more to offer for a nexus for third-party suspects than we've seen here, right?
On me.
Oh no, yeah, no. What I was saying was in Delphi, I thought we saw more of a nexus for third-party suspects than we have in this case, than in Idaho 4.
There's no third-party nexus in this case yet. There's rumors on the internet, thanks to WSU Mom Kim and a bunch of other people who put out a bunch of fake shit, who met up behind the scenes and discussed what they were going to put out to fool the public with. And there's proof of that. I will go back I don't like calling out creators. I don't want to get into a creator war, and I'm not the YouTube police. That is not my damn job. But I'm telling y'all, I've been in this case deep for 2 solid years. I have seen everything possibly put out on this case. I know all the people who put out the shady shit. I know all of the accounts who were doing the behind the scenes get together to let's make and we even had Publicly Buzz on our show who absolutely admitted that in the beginning, the crazier your thumbnail was for this case, the more attraction your channel got, the more views you got. If you put out everything Bryan Kohberger innocent, you built your channel. And he did it himself, and he's not happy that he did it. But that's the way it was in the beginning of this case. You couldn't do a show that even discussed or opened up the the conversation about this could be the guy without being attacked. I was so leery about covering this case, but I thought, you know what? It's my stream, my show. They don't got to come watch it, because I damn sure went into all of their streams and watched all they had to say. And if I questioned one thing, I literally got attacked by chat. Like, you couldn't even bring up a reasonable argument without being attacked for it. Who collab with Mata? Don't go there, Frank. Yeah, I know what you feel about that, but I don't see it the same way with Mata. Murder Sheet collaborated with the prosecution. They're the first ones to do anything and leak anything over there. And in fact, they got this big thing going on where they're about to have some kind of big talk about how Anya and Kevin are going to be in this little forum, and they're going to talk about how social media plays a part in criminal cases now, like there's some kind of damn authority.
Oh my gosh. Are you serious? Oh
yes,
my God.
Yes, and I have that saved, but I just didn't want to touch on it yet.
This makes me want to swear on your channel. This makes me want to say swear
You know,
words
I
on
don't
your
care
channel.
about that. This ain't your channel, dude. It's mine. But Frank, I like Mata and I love Allie. So, you know, I mean, I know where you're coming from, and I know you've seen the same things that I've seen. But I feel like there were other people cranking that. Mata was literally, if you go and watch his lives, he talks out of the documents, right? But there were some things leaked to Murder Sheet by a certain somebody. So I feel you, dude. I know what you're talking about. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I just I disagree a little bit. Who, he didn't even have a K-bar? Who, Kohberger? How do we know that? You seen his? How do you know that? Like, where? Who told you that? You seen a receipt for that? I'm not arguing with you, Truth Exposed. I just don't know how you know that. You know, none of us know that yet. We know it's been looked into. We just went over 2 days worth of search warrants and all the places they looked to see where these purchases could have been from.
Lindsay, we're bouncing back and forth between Delphi and Kohberger because there are so many similarities, but there are also so many differences, like stark differences.
Started off the show, Lindsay, with a little piece that I did. Libby's grandparents spoke to the media. Finally, we played that, and then so as we discussed the Kohberger case, people like to compare the two, and to me, there's no comparison. Like, there's really not. You know, I don't. I hate when a creator catches the rear conversation. What rear end of that would that be? All right, see.
I can name a few creators that I would associate with being a rear end, but
yeah, me too. There were oh my God, and people who haven't followed this case from the beginning, you don't have a clue. And I'm not being mean, and I'm not trying to be a bitch. I'm honestly being honest. I don't think you have a clue to how much behind the scenes talk. You caught me talking about Bundy. Oh, okay, honey. Yeah, I do need to scroll. I do like to catch up on chat, but I feel like if I get too quiet, y'all are like, why is she quiet? But my voice is not wanting to cooperate either. You think there's let me go scroll back up. She's talking about Bundy. Okay, I get you. Bundy was arrested right here in my hometown, thanks to a savvy cop. Yeah, there's just, when people want to talk about this case and they want to compare over to Delphi, and the reason I compare is because people wanted all these things in Delphi to happen that have been used in this case, but in this case they don't like it. You know what I mean? And I don't understand that. If you're willing to accept this evidence in this case, but you're not willing to accept it in this case, then why? You know what I mean? That's where I have a problem with. Yeah. Welcome in, Difficult Research. Good to see you again. All right, I'm going.
Krisha, hi.
Yes, I
Welcome
enjoy her.
in.
And I have to say, can I adopt your parents? I want them to be my grandparents. I love them. Um, okay, so this is an article that I ran across. I hadn't seen this one. And take it with a big old grain of salt, people, because I'm telling you, if this kind of shit come up in other cases, we would definitely be talking about them. So I don't know why Kohberger's off limits, but he's not for me, my channel. All right, so this, get rid of this thing. This is an article that now I didn't even know. This girl talked to the FBI apparently. Someone said the time frame was impossible. I told her to be attacked for, yeah, exactly. It Firefly and Dan, another friend of ours, we did an experiment one night, and I'll have to pull up the virtual 3D house one night, and we'll do this. And we, long story short, we pretend to go in, and we are like, give ourselves this much time, get up the stairs, give ourselves this much time, da 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 da. As we came back down the stairs and got to the end, right in front of Dylan's bedroom door, I said to my friend, "What time is it?" Because we pretended we entered the house at 4:09 because the car goes behind the building at 4:08 and the lights go out. Give a minute to get out of the car and get in the house. Like, we tried to do it. Oh, which reminds me, Mr. Steve's going to do a new test, Joe, I got to tell you about. But anyway, so as we came down the stairs and landed in front of Dylan's door, I said, "What time is it?" And Firefly said, 4:12. And I'm like, TikTok. Xana was on TikTok at 4:12. If the things got in there, and if it's okay, say that he only went in there intended to take care of one person, and if that person was Maddie and Kaylee's in the bed, now you got to contend with that. Quickly, things are happening. You run down those stairs to run out, and boom, there's somebody else you got to contend with. Boom, it can happen. Y'all would be surprised at how fast these. Set a timer and just sit still during that timer and see what your thoughts are. When we can scream all day long with no blood transferred, right? Well, it depends. What did he have on? We showed some stuff about that too. All of that will come out in court.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing too about no blood transfer is there was a bad guy in that house that night, or bad guys, plural, that unalived 4 college students in a very brutal fashion, which usually results in injuries to the person that's committing that crime because it's a very violent crime. So maybe Bryan's DNA and blood wasn't found on the scene, but whose was? If it wasn't him, why wasn't the real bad guy leaving DNA and blood evidence at the scene too? That's my question. Is like everybody who's Bryan's DNA and blood was not found on the scene, except of course on the sheath. So that must have been planted if your BK is innocent. What about the real bad guy? If it wasn't Bryan, then who was it, and why isn't their DNA on the scene? That's it.
He had rubber gloves, a sponge, and cleaning spray too, apparently. He cleaned his car. We know that. They've seen him. They actually watched him cleaning the car. But he didn't have, we don't know about anything in the house being sprayed. Bryan's blood wasn't in that house. Bryan didn't get cut. So his blood isn't going to be there. I mean, from the inside taken out. Because, okay, for theorizing purposes, exactly, Truth changed. He didn't even have to change his clothes, people. When I brought it up yesterday or the day before on our stream, and I showed you the line of clothing that you can purchase that looks like normal clothing that are cut resistant. Do you wear that under your Dickies suit just in case? Do you strip that suit off, right there in the kitchen floor, standing on a plastic bag, and then scoop it all up and put it into your backpack and haul ass. I mean, you got to take into account what this guy did in his studies, right? And the latent shoe print. Again, did he lightly, because the blood and all of that seems to be contained to mostly to the bedrooms. So if you lightly stepped in something and then you're walking across the floor, I don't know, did it dry and over the 8 hours, and then when they illuminated it, they saw it, and it was pointing toward the slider, toward that kitchen area? And if so, does it match up to the shoe size? Was it Dylan's shoe print? Was it leading out of her bedroom door? Was it going into her bedroom door? Was it going up toward the stairs, toward the living room, or out toward the kitchen? These are things. And yeah, V, there were unidentified blood. There was 3 unidentified males, A, B, C, and D. I don't know where she ended up getting those, but it's always been said there were 3 unknowns. But the last time she came into court, she only talked about the 2. And we just went over in that one video about the criteria to upload that type of DNA into CODIS. It depends on the relation to the crime scene, how old it was. Dolphin and I did a deep dive on old blood. How long, does it degrade? If it's not, if they can't just take the sample and go run to CODIS and upload it, they have to build it and then upload it. But there's still certain criteria they have to meet to be able to upload to CODIS. And I think a lot of us are just learning that. And I'm telling you, anything like when they mentioned this DNA expert, when the news guy mentioned only a criteria, I am going to research it and look it up and trying to figure out why. I've got the 1994 DNA Act. I read through the whole thing last night in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep because there was a thunderstorm and I woke up sick. So
wait, you didn't go out stargazing? You didn't go out for a drive?
No, it was storming. It was a full moon last night, and believe me, I stargaze all the time right here in my backyard because I am fortunate to live in the country and I don't have light pollution. So I've got a beautiful sky every night. But last night it was cloudy and rainy and it screwed me all up. So yeah, it was a beautiful full moon. But I love to sit outside. I am that girl. I got to touch grass. I got to go get my vitamin D. You can find me. I might be sitting outside 2 o'clock in the morning, but I'm not going to be out there driving around because I'm a girl. My daddy would kill me. Something could have happened to you, girl. Blah, blah, blah. Like I'm a grown woman, but I don't want to disappoint my dad or have to hear it. Okay. Let me just make sure. Let me catch up on chat here. There's a lot we don't know, guys, as far as, because the state doesn't have to come into these hearings and present any of their evidence yet. None of it. That's what trials in this country are for. If we're ready to decide a case without a trial, we don't need trials anymore. And do trials always end the way we think they should? No. We saw that in Casey Anthony, and we saw that in Delphi. All that overwhelming evidence they supposedly had against Casey Anthony, 2 straight years of nonstop Nancy Grace coverage here in Florida. That's all we did for 2 years was Casey Anthony. That woman lied her tail off. She led investigators right up to her office door, then turned around and said, "Oh, well, I don't really work here." All of the things, but yet she walked because the prosecution failed to prove their case. I watched the entire trial. Will that happen here? Possibly, but the prosecution doesn't have to come out and say a damn thing. And if you notice, they usually don't. They just kind of sit there and let the state say what they want, and they don't have to reply to it yet. It's not trial. Pokemon, you ain't right. Okay, let's look at this article. Take it with a grain of salt, guys. Why does this thing up here keep popping up? How can I get it to go away? It's on my nerves. All right. Okay. Exclusive. Girls made fun of him in middle school. Former cheerleader who rejected Bryan Kohberger's advances in sixth grade is interviewed by FBI as classmates reveal how the chubby misfit was bullied and tortured. I can't see behind by the popular clique. Okay. Kim Kennelly, 27, was sixth grade classmate of Bryan Kohberger, who was 28. The pair attended Pleasant Valley Intermediate School in Broadheadsville, Pennsylvania. Her mother, Sandra, told DailyMail.com the accused killer had pined over Kennelly, often leaving her love notes. Other former classmates said Kohberger was bullied by the popular girls. One said the girls he accused of killing were much like the ones that made fun of him throughout his childhood. FBI agents have interviewed Bryan Kohberger's middle school crush in hopes of piecing together the psyche of the man they believe is responsible for the gruesome murders of the Idaho Fort College students. Kim Kennelly, 27, contacted the Bureau shortly after learning her former classmate had been arrested for allegedly knifing. And y'all don't go running after this girl and sending her nasty messages now. Be nice. I know people will do it. Not y'all, but who's lurking. So anyway, she contacted the Bureau, learning that her former classmate had been arrested for allegedly knifing four housemates to death at the university just 15 minutes from where he was studying in November. The two were sixth grade students at Pleasant Valley Intermediate School in Broadheadsville, Pennsylvania, when Kohberger, 28, developed a crush and began romantically pursuing the girl she could, whatever she could tell them. Her mother, Sandra, confirmed to the Daily Mail. It was so long I couldn't imagine what she had to tell the FBI. I guess it was for character purposes. And see, there's a difference. He was a little heavier there. And I guess that's her now. Kohberger, then a chubby, awkward misfit, would become relentless in his pursuit, repeatedly leaving love letters in her locker and telling her he liked her, according to the mom. He would always say, "Oh, Kim, I think you're very pretty," just like weird comments. And she'd say, "Oh my God, leave me alone." She did not give him the time of day, the mom noted. When kids are little, they're mean. They don't say, "Oh my God, thank you," but no. And Kennelly would eventually tell Kohberger to buzz off, breaking his heart. At the time, she lived in Scioto in rural eastern Pennsylvania, 90 miles north of Philadelphia, and a 30-minute drive from the Kohberger home in Albrightsville. She has since left the area and lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, where she works as an occupational therapist at an assisted living facility. And there we have Bryan working out at high school. Yearbook, Kohberger's caption said he aspired to be an Army Ranger, previously overweight. He lost about 100 pounds and transformed into a totally person. Right there's just a little video clip of Anna about a preliminary hearing that we never got to hear. And the rest of this is pretty much stuff we already know. Kennelly's awkward schoolyard encounters with Kohberger are among several bizarre accounts to emerge from former friends and witnesses in recent days that paint the picture of a troubled, disgruntled young man who didn't fit in at school. Former classmates have revealed Kohberger was heavy-set and the subject of bullying and cruel taunts in middle school. The whole clique of popular girls made fun of him in school. They were the cheerleaders and the ones that every kid had crushes on, another classmate who did not wish to be identified told the Daily Mail. They literally tortured him. Girls started making fun of him in middle school, but Kohberger seemed to turn his life around in high school, where he took up boxing and lost weight. He was a totally different person. He worked out constantly and was super aggressive, the male friend said. He had a short fuse and was constantly trying to change his style and personality to fit in with cliques. A third former classmate added, "It's interesting to me that the girls he's accused of killing were nice-looking and seemingly popular, much like the ones that made fun of him throughout his childhood." His theory backed that a former FBI, oh my God, Coffin Daffer. We're going to skip that part because
Yes, let's skip that part.
we're going to skip what Coffin Daffer had to say. None of it, she can't even get the damn Google searches straight for Rick Allen. Her main source was DB Cooper. Okay. We're not going to read what she speculated about because we all know it's crazy shit anyway. Casey Arntz, we've seen Casey's interviews several times. She knew him pretty well, unlike Willie. Willie, who admitted he didn't know him at all, knew of him. But people want to run around the internet saying they were friends, but he said he wasn't. Anyway, Casey Arntz, who attended high school with Kohberger, said he used to get her to drive around his home area in search of drugs. Her brother Thomas said Kohberger would try to bully others to distract from his own weight problem. He was mean-spirited. He was a bully. I never thought he would do something like that, but at the same time, it doesn't really surprise me, Thomas said. A woman called Haley posted a TikTok video saying she had been on the Tinder date, which we saw that one. Remember where he told her she had the good birthing hips? After going to watch a movie, they went back to her dorm room and watched TV, and Kohberger kept trying to touch her. Not like inappropriately, just trying to tickle and like rub my shoulder and stuff. She proceeded to ask him why he was touching her, which caused him to get super serious. I'm not, then he said, according to her. You are though, she recalls retorting, saying then that Kohberger was attempting to gaslight me into thinking that he didn't touch me, which is weird. She clarified that she did not feel in danger and wasn't scared of him, but did want him to leave after a time, which led her to pretend to throw up in the dorm hall's bathroom. She then claimed Kohberger followed her to the bathroom and stood outside the door, which also she thought was weird. The vomiting incident apparently put Kohberger off and he left, and Haley said she was glad she never saw him again. Now, then he allegedly texted her back and told her she had good birthing hips. So okay, whatever that's supposed to mean. You did like to go to that little reading of handles he allegedly murdered were blonde too, Sandra noted. She is definitely creeped out. I think a lot, except for Xana, and I don't think Xana was intended. I think a lot of kids that went to school with him were all like that, the mom continued. They can't believe this kid could actually murder 4 people. Moscow police, along with state troopers and FBI, say they have interviewed hundreds of people since the investigation into the mass murder was launched. They arrested the Kohberger, a PhD criminology student at WSU in Pullman, on December 30th at his parents' home. We all know that part. They say the DNA found on the sheath matched the killer, apparently left the... Okay, so that's pretty much over. But I thought that was interesting that because I know people don't like looking at what people say. They're like, oh, how can you trust what they're saying and all this stuff? But these people who knew him, Willie knew the sister. They were in the same grade. I've listened to Willie speak for a year and a half. I know exactly what Willie has said. In fact, I made a video and got it where he said now Willie wasn't friends with him. But Willie is out there telling people, V, that he knew Bryan. There are channels who talk about it as of 2 days ago, of how Willie knows Bryan Kohberger. Willie would know, Willie this, Willie that. Willie stated on open panel he was not friends with Bryan Kohberger. So there's conflicting information out there. And I'm telling y'all, I have heard it all with this case. I've heard it all. So I don't know why Willie would come out there and tell certain creators and try to tell the world that he was, good friends with Kohberger and the guy couldn't have done it and all this, when he then admits he didn't even know the guy. Got here just in time to catch the DB part. we were making fun of Miss Coffindoffer there, all eyes. She her main source for the Google searches in the Allen case was from DB. We were reading an article just now on Kohberger, and they mentioned Coffindoffer, and that kind of got me on that little thing there. Let me get caught. Imagine calling a girl you left because she was puking and trying to make her feel better by saying she had, right? Yeah. Sorry you got sick and threw up, but you got good birthing hips. Can we hook up again? Jeez. What is this? What? He didn't drink and he didn't do it, period, full stop. They didn't get to put on a defense, asked Bob Mata. Oh, you talking about Delphi? Yeah, we know. We know. Boy, do we know. That's why I'm just waiting on appeal now, because I'm so kind of, like I said, Judge Gull and Nick McClellan, they're not looking at my stream going, damn, she's right, or All Eyes stream going, damn, she's right. We better,
Right.
we fucked up. We better make this right. So I am heavily relying on those, new attorneys that come in on the appeal process.
You know
to
what?
see how
I'm waiting on the judge's ruling on the defense's motion to correct error and the state's response to the defense's motion to correct error, because those were.
she hasn't done that yet, has she?
No, she has not. So it's going to be interesting. I will predict it, and I will put my next 5 paychecks on my prediction of how it's going to turn out, but we'll see.
Yes, V, I'm sorry that I cut out, babe. I'm so sorry. Yes, she contacted the FBI once she realized she knew him, but they were really interested in talking to anybody who knew the guy. So when a case is investigated, they do victimology. If you're going to investigate your victims, you also need to investigate your perpetrator. So you're going to speak to a lot of people who may have known them. What kind of tendencies did they exhibit? None of that proves anything, but it speaks to character. And that happens a lot in criminal cases. They go back and speak. And Anne brought up, gosh, a year ago, she was already bringing up stuff she was going to be using in mitigation, meaning once you find my client guilty, I got to mitigate and build medical records in his case. Is there anything in those medical records she's going to try to use to get that? They investigate every aspect of it. So talking to people from the past isn't abnormal, but that doesn't even mean that it matters. You know what I mean? Will they be called to testify? I doubt some 6th grade girl crush is going to come in and say, oh yeah, he was a weirdo, left me notes in my locker. So what? A lot of guys would do that, right? A lot of girls would do it. A lot of girls probably harass the shit out of a lot of boys who didn't want to be messed with. You know how it is. All right, let's see. What else do I got here that I wanted to share? Sleuthy, if you're still lurking, I'm gonna have to get up with you, girl, because she's great to have up for a dual conversation on the Kohberger case. I've enjoyed the Twitter spaces that I've been a part of with her and the discussion, and I know that she and I do see things a little differently, and I don't mind that. I like that. But Sleuthy is able to discuss it with you in an adult manner and get her point across and let you get your point across as well. And Sleuthy has a great video. She blew my mind one time with the DoorDash driver shit. With that video she made, I had to hit her up on the DM, and I'm like, okay, I don't think the DoorDash driver did it, but that video was enough to make me pause and think for a minute. So, yeah, I'm going to have to try to get her on to talk to us about her take on this as well. Let me see here. Now, I don't want to play today. I don't, because I don't want to be on here terribly long. I do have the full testimony. I'll drop the link maybe in the community tab, but it's the testimony of that Dr. Greg Hampikian testifying in the Chad Daybell trial. I think what I'm going to do is set up a long stream. Maybe Sunday we can get into it, because I still want everybody to see Nick Balance testify at that trial, because Nick Balance is going to blow you away with his ability to get his point across on that witness stand. So Nick Balance brought up in Idaho, Kohberger case, testified in Lori's, and Dr. Greg Hampikian testified at Chad's as well. And I want to bring both of those out so we can take a look at them. But let me show you a little bit of this. This is only like, I don't even know if we'll watch the whole thing. Let me speed him up a tiny bit here. This is that professor or DNA expert. And this was from several years back. But this is just a little brief of him talking. Let me see. They don't want to come look at my stuff, man. They don't. Wow. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Okay, whoa, where is this video at? Why is it not showing up? Okay, there we go. I gotta take it down and pull it back up each time. Not each time, but sometimes it does this. I don't know why it's doing that. Hang on. It did that the other day with one of the videos I was trying to play, and it got on my nerves. It's like, don't test me when I don't feel good. It won't work out.
Real estate and travel are deeply intertwined.
God, that stupid ad that always pops up. Okay. And I have YouTube Premium. That's not an ad. It's a stupid video they keep showing me that I don't care about. And I cannot ever make it go away. Okay. This is that.
Along with it, I brought some props.
Here he is. Okay. He's just going to talk a little bit about some DNA stuff for us, and we'll just chill and watch this for a minute. This is the one that was spoke of in that news article or that news piece we watched, you know, when they brought him up, and we were like, top DNA expert in the country, in Idaho, actually in the world. Okay.
So I'm going to need some help from some people in the front row to commit a crime. And for the serious part, I'm going to be talking about DNA errors, forensic DNA errors today. So imagine, and I'm only going to ask you to imagine this briefly, a loved one is hurt or killed in a crime. Someone's finally arrested. You go through the endless trials, and someone is incarcerated for the crime. You think you're done with it. 12 years, 20 years later, you hear they got the wrong person. That's the kind of thing that we're trying to avoid. And so in order to do that, we have to constantly be looking at our techniques to see how to improve them. And so I'm going to talk about some issues in my own field that I've seen in my work. I work in all 50 states now. I have cases overseas, Asia, Africa, Europe. And some of the things I've seen that I'm concerned about and that I've raised at professional meetings, some of it's never been shown before, and I'll show you tonight. So we'll be talking about forensic DNA errors. I don't want you to think it's all bad. It's not all bad. It's a great field. It's my life. And I'm going to break it into two categories. One is statistical and interpretive errors, so things where the conclusions are wrong based on human reasoning and mathematics. And the other one is contamination, which is kind of easy to understand. Somebody spills some DNA or it gets transferred. And then I'll tell you what my lab here in Boise is working on in the contamination area very briefly. So we'll have the first slide. I'm going to turn you into DNA experts. Get ready for science. Here it goes. This is the easy stuff. This is a single source. I can teach you guys to do this immediately. Let's say I decide I'm going to commit a crime with this. It's clean. It just got out of the dishwasher, and there was bleach in the dishwasher, so it has no DNA on it. I touch it, and I go to the front row, and I commit a murder. Okay, the police come. They do the spatter. They collect some of the blood to identify the victim. They see my fingerprint, and I always carry a swab. They take, I really do always carry. They take a swab, they swab it, and what's really nifty about these swabs is you can just knock the ends off of them, but I'm going to pull it and put it in here. I should be wearing gloves, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Now, the issue is, am I the murderer, right? So here's am I the suspect? And all you have to know about DNA is you get it from your mother and your father, okay? So that means that every location on the DNA that I'm going to look at, and I've shown you these are 4 locations here in the columns. Sorry that this is a little off. At every location, you got 1 number from mom, 1 number from dad. I got 1 number from my mom, 1 from dad. I'm the suspect. Am I a match? Am I matched? Yes. So my students, when I say the word match, they have to say statistics. So am I a match? Statistics. At this level, it's probably 10, 100, maybe 1 in 10,000 people would be included in this match. Maybe 1 in, I don't know, 2,000, something like that. All right. That's a single source. Everybody gets it right. Next. Here's a mixture. How do we get a mixture? Before I commit the crime, a couple other people I offer to touch this. Maybe 3 of you. And so now they come in and they do the swab and they get a mixture, and this is what they get. These, again, are 4 locations of DNA, but now there's a bunch of what we call alleles or sizes in there. The question becomes, am I included in that? So am I still included? Are all of my sizes in there? Yes. Yes. Is it a match? Yes. The statistic is now something like 1 in 10 or maybe 1 in 50. And that's because more people could potentially be included. Now, you'd think that this would be an easy concept and we'd have mathematics that could deal with it. But when laboratories are given the same data, they sometimes vary in that statistic over 10 to the 10. That's the difference between going to court and saying there was $30 of damage to my car and the damage to my car was greater than the combined gross domestic product of every country over the last 100 years and then some, okay? So the statistics are done differently in different labs, and they give a very different impression based on how the statistics were performed. This mixture question becomes very complicated, and if you give a mixture to 10 experts, you might get 10 different interpretations. I did that. I took a mixture case from Kerry Robinson, a man who wrote to me who says he's innocent, and he was convicted in a gang rape in Georgia. There were 3 men who raped a woman. 1 man's identified, all of his DNA's in the semen recovered from the victim. She picked him out of a yearbook. He's given an option to reduce his sentence. Tell us who one of the other guys is. He makes up a name. The guy doesn't exist. They say no deal. Then he says Kerry, and he can't remember the last name, Robinson, he finally says. And so they arrest Kerry Robinson, a guy he knew in high school. Kerry says he only gave my name because he thinks I talked to the cops about him. But because he gave a name, his sentence is reduced. That man, the first man, is out of prison right now. Kerry Robinson's in prison. I looked at the DNA. I say Kerry Robinson is excluded from that mixture. I took the same data, me and Itiel Dror, my co-author, and we gave it to 17 animals that did the DNA. And we asked them, is it a match? Is he excluded? You didn't say statistic. Is it a match? All right, you got to pass. Is it a match? Is he excluded? Thank you. Or is it inconclusive? We gave it to 17 experts, all trained in one lab in North America, all part of a state lab. We got all 3 answers. Not only did we get all 3 answers, but only one of the people at that lab, of the 17, agreed with the lab in Georgia's original conclusion that Kerry was included. Next. We got a little attention for that, and new scientists picked it up, and economists picked it up, but it's still a problem. All right. I was trying to explain this mixture question to a prosecutor over the summer, and so I had to use some Scrabble tiles. And what I said is a mixture is like if you put my name and your name, Mr. Prosecutor, in a bowl, we put 2 people in, but you can pull lots out. And so I had to do that. I took our 2 names, and these are the letters for our 2 names. And now we'll get into this question of subjectivity and bias, right? Who contributed names to this? Well, I've told you I did. You might not know how to spell my name. But Al Gore did too, didn't he? George Will, Larry King, Mary Kay, Porky Pig, Ann Klein, Henry Miller, Happy Gilmore, Lena Horne, Papa Gino, Pepe Le Pew, Marilyn Monroe, Willy Wonka, Rain Man, King Philip, King Lear, etc. King Kong. The point is, these mixtures, even though we go to court and they say, is the person a match? the statistics can widely vary to the point where they can become meaningless, and there's no uniformity in my field for that. Next slide. This is just some of the attention we got for that article, and I'll take the next one. Okay. Here's another problem of statistics. This is a very unfortunate case. Mr. Denman became a missing person. This is from the Albuquerque newspaper. This is the obituary. He was 49 years old when he left us, and donations can be sent, etc. There was another article about this later when they interviewed his brother, because they found the bones near the house and they thought it was a murder. FBI came in, identified it is Donnie Denman. With DNA, they identified it. And so there's another article looking for people who could help solve the murder. Next slide. This is now 4 months later. Donnie's not dead. His friend was putting newspaper down to repair his car in the garage, saw that there's an obituary for Donnie Denman and that there was a funeral, called Donnie Denman and said, they think you're dead. And he said, who gave the oration? He said, your pastor. He called the pastor. They straightened it out. This shows you that even though there was a DNA match, right, an FBI DNA match, God, people, even though there's a match statistic, the statistic wasn't that high. This is mitochondrial DNA. It's a particular type of DNA we use on old bones, broken hair, etc., and it doesn't give us those powerful statistics. Next slide, please. This is our last story of statistics. This was my first case in Taiwan, and this is for the Taiwan Innocence Project. They'd heard from a man named Mr. Chen, and so I'm going to show you how to read this. This is now Y chromosome DNA, so most of the columns will have just one number. This, I'm sorry that you can't see it that clearly, but this is DNA recovered from semen from the underwear of a rape victim. She was raped by 3 men. And these are the alleles or DNA sizes that were found. This is Mr. Chen. Now, is Mr. Chen's 15 there? Yes. The 12, in fact, every one of Mr. Chen's alleles are there. Mr. Chen's arrested. Mr. Chen's convicted. He loses all 3 appeals. He writes to the Taiwan Innocence Project. They meet me when they come over to the States, show me this data, and they say, what can we do? What's the statistic on this? And we tried to calculate a statistic. It was pretty strong. And I said, but there are new tests. And so they went to court in Taiwan, and they got a test that instead of looking at the number of alleles in the first kit, they added some other alleles, some other markers in this kit to look at. So they looked at more locations, more powerful statistics, even though he was included with the less powerful statistics. With the more powerful, here's Mr. Chen. His 17 is not in the underwear. His 13 is not in the underwear. Next slide. This is Mr. Chen in March of 2014. So it's a statistical problem. It was a match. And now we have a better kit that looks at more sites and so gives us more powerful statistics. Okay, now we're going to talk about contamination. Next slide. This is a Los Angeles case. Now, you hear about the test tubes all the time that people who work in labs like I do work with, but you might not know that these are the size we work with now. Okay? They all look the same. There's writing on them. You can't see it, right? Even if you're working on it, you can't. And so the position of the tubes is what's important. Okay? And now I'm going to teach you the principle that I try to teach my people in lab. Do not keep your arsenic in an old spice bottle. Okay? And if you do, don't put the arsenic in the spice rack. Okay? And so when you're handling a suspect's DNA and DNA from a crime scene, you have to do the crime scene DNA first, get it all the way to paper. You're completely done with it before you take out the tube of the suspect's DNA. Why? Contamination, or you just might mix up a tube. Does that ever happen? Well, by the way a lot of experts testify, they can't possibly make a mistake. They're always keeping track of everything. I just heard this story in Montana a couple of weeks ago by an analyst. And here's the, sorry, go back. Here's the, can we go back one slide? Maybe not. What I was showing you is from a Las Vegas case. They're apologizing. Why? What happened? They had 2 suspects' DNA in line. Somebody accidentally swapped the tubes in the lab. It happens. They told the wrong man, your DNA's a match. You're going to prison for 30 years if we try you. Maybe if you plead guilty, you'll do 7, 10, I don't know. He pled guilty. What would you do, right? You're going against DNA. And then they...
Sorry, guys. This stream is still up, right?
Yes,
Can you
it's
guys
going.
hear?
Yes, it's still
Okay,
going.
because I just got a notification that I just got in trouble.
Uh-oh.
I got a live stream copyright for using the Delphi piece from Fox 59. And it says
Uh-oh.
my stream was interrupted. So I'm like, "Oh, no, it's not. I'm streaming." So maybe when we're done, I'll go down and take that part out. But why are Fox 59 going after people now? I mean, for playing their video. You put it out on YouTube.
Right, and
It's
they're a public news agency. Like,
that's so aggravating.
oh my goodness.
I'm like that fast while I'm live. Stream is interrupted when copyright content is detected. After copyright material is no longer being streamed, streams are automatically re-enabled. Well, they haven't taken us down yet.
Wow.
Maybe I got lucky. So if we go down, guys, it's because I got into trouble for being salty and
You're such a troublemaker. You're such
and we
a
were being
troublemaker.
respectful. I mean, we even threw up the banner to be nice, and oh my God. So are you guys finding this guy's talk interesting at all? I mean, it's explaining, about the contamination. I thought it was interesting. It's not terribly long. We can stop it if you guys are uninterested. But if you want to hear it finish playing out, we can do that as well. It's up to you guys. But I just thought it was interesting because he was brought up as the top DNA expert, and I know he testified over in Chad's case, so it made me wonder, would he be a part of the state's witness? He hasn't been. We can't see any of the witness list from the state or the defense yet. We only know about Cyree. Thank you, Forrest. Oh, wait, there. So are we down? Guys?
Let me see.
Oh.
I don't think so. I don't think we're down.
I don't think we're down either. Let me look at my phone and see if I'm still alive.
We had a little bit of streamless interrupt us, but I think we're back now.
I think so too. It looks like we are.
So are we down?
Oh, she's back on. I turned my phone up, and I'm checking my phone, like, are we down? Nope, we're back up. We're back up. Okay. All right. Well, after this, I'll go edit that part out, I guess. But you can see the damn Fox 59 stuff. I'll appeal that because I'm not playing around with Fox 59. Who do y'all think y'all are, Fox 59? Come on. You didn't mind us playing your stuff all through Delphi trial. You certainly didn't mind us promoting you were out there covering the trial. You did not mind any of that. Lauren, you didn't mind at all either. Until your interview come out, and then you got pissed because people used it. Y'all need to stop it. Y'all are no better than we are. Just because you got a little media credential tied around your neck or whatever the hell you got.
All right, you gonna tell people about my copyright strike then, since you went down that rabbit hole?
Joe got a copyright strike, and so did Sleuthy Goosey from Hidden True Crime, because she did the interview with Jerry Holman, and we reviewed it. Joe and I reviewed it. Sleuthy went and reviewed it, and they both got struck by Hidden True Crime, which surprised me with Lauren. I always had, I loved her coverage in the Vallow cases. Daybell. She was the only one willing to go down the religious aspect of it, right? And so I never really had a problem with her. But then she struck Joe and she struck Sleuthy. But Joe continued to fight it. And Joe, you want to give us the good news?
Oh yeah, we're back up. We are back up. Both of those. So we took her interview with Jerry Holman and we split it up into 2 reviews. They both got struck under the same copyright strike. And I appealed it the first time. It got rejected. I appealed it the second time. And it's back up now. So we can have a rewatch party anytime we want.
We are going to have a rewatch party because it was a, Yeah, we comment, we criticize. It was under fair use, and I don't have the fair use disclaimer up. I got lazy about it and keep forgetting to do it. But I guess we're just gonna have to do it. I don't know if it'll matter, but I don't know.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't know.
sorry.
I don't know why somebody
I
with
was
200
innocent.
and I don't know why somebody with 230,000 subscribers is worried about somebody with like barely 500. So, yeah, that's probably why she didn't appeal the second one. But anyway, we're back up and we're going to rewatch those sometime soon.
Yeah. I guess you're right. I mean, V, I've heard that if you stop and you comment, but I know, that gets annoying to the listeners sometimes if I keep stopping and commenting, but sometimes I'm all salty and want to comment. But I guess I'm going to have to get used to just stopping and commenting, instead of letting the whole thing play. But if they actually watch the stream, they'll see that we were being sensitive and kind to the grandparents, regardless. But whatever, I'll handle it. Good Lord, now they gonna cause me to get irritated. Um,
I've been irritated,
yeah,
but now we're coming out on the right side of that irritation. Like
yeah,
the copyright
yeah,
strike was undone, and we can go and we can watch those now.
Real estate and travel are deeply intertwined.
and that's good because we do. It's worth a rewatch party, right? Especially
Absolutely.
now
Yeah.
that you won't get in trouble, and because we might pick up on some things we missed the first time around, because we were all like, "What the hell is this dude talking about?" Um, so
We
it'll
can
be.
rewatch ourselves watching ourselves.
Oh gosh,
So
I
watch
might be.
yeah, I
I might be
watched
like, "Oh, is that me?
yeah,
Did I
Deputy
say that?"
Deputy Frank Slope of the Pinal County Sheriff's Office. He does this thing that's like Fridays with Frank, and he does a lot more than that. He watches other videos too, but he cracks me up the most when he rewatches his own videos and he cracks himself up. I'm like, dude, you're cracking yourself up. It's not that funny, but I guess you think it's that funny, so I think it's funny too. And that's how that's
Yeah.
going to be. When we rewatch those two videos, that's going to be funny. Oh.
Joe, tell me about it. She says, Krisha, I'm the only family member who has never been asked for how I feel, much less an interview. Girl, we care about how you feel, and I would love to have you up here to talk to me about it, and just because I know it was such a dip. Lori affected so many people, her and Chad with their fallout of that, and I wanted to see those two go down for everything they were worth because I started following the case the minute it was announced on the news that JJ and Tylee were missing. And I never stopped watching that case after that. And so, I have so much respect for Kay and Larry. Like, I just love them. And I've seen them talk so many times and seen their story. And I think it's important for it to be out because people do lose track of it's not so much in the okay, well, like you were saying earlier, the media kind of strayed away from the religious aspect of what they were doing. And I've told Joe that I have felt like so many creators covering the trial were so focused on the sex and the money and the blah blah blah, they were skipping and forgetting the real parts that were important to me. And so I understand how you feel. And anytime you want to come up, you are more than welcome. Shoot me an email, saltysleuth@gmail.com. We can work something out if you are comfortable with coming up and talking. If not, we understand that as well. We love having you in chat and you sharing with us, and we do appreciate that because we know that it's difficult, and you guys are trying to move on, and it's hard when Lori is still going through trials, and now with Charles' case up, and Charles deserves all the justice he can get because the man tried so hard, to make people listen to him about Lori, and it just wasn't working. So we feel you, girl, and we do, and like I said, I do love you and I love your family, and we are here for you. No, you're welcome. I think I'm going to be on here much longer, guys. I went to look to see if there was anything dropped since this morning in the Idaho case, and I don't think there has been since I checked this morning. But my headache is kind of coming back with this flu type stuff, so I'm going to go rest the rest of the day while nobody's here. And I usually stream on Thursday mornings, and I really didn't want to miss it, and I missed. Let's just take a look real quick at a couple of things. Hang on, let me pull it up. Because let's see. The last thing entered into the file was notice of intent to use the 4OB evidence, and then there was a motion to extend the state's rebuttal that was granted. This is a motion to seal something. Let's see here what this one says, because I was just told they didn't have a lot in them, and I really didn't get a chance to read them last night. I was just doing other stuff in between trying to sleep. And this one is just a motion to seal Exhibit S1, and I think S1 was Dylan's statement, one of her statements, and it come now through the state of Idaho and the prosecuting attorney. And remember, Ashley Jennings had a affidavit that was placed into the case summary. Everybody's like, what's that about? It was to do with this stuff. Attorney moves the court pursuant to Idaho Court Administrative Rule 32, Idaho Code 74-124, for an order sealing the affidavit of Ashley Jennings, Exhibit S1, to the state's motion to extend rebuttal expert disclosure deadline. Now, I wonder what her affidavit on that could have been. See, like, I'm so tired of I get why they want to do something sealed, but at the same time, like the judge said, they're asking for a lot of stuff sealed that don't need to be sealed. And they talk about it there's like one, and then there's an order sealing it, and then an order sealing the exhibit attached to the response. Now, this one is a request for 22nd supplement request for discovery, and I know everybody's got like a huge problem with that, like, oh my. But if you go look at Chad Daybell's case, you'll see how many times they had discovery requests done. And as you think about it, as the cases progress and new information comes out, that's going to warrant new discovery. So it's just like it's an ongoing thing as long as they're still preparing for court. All right. The defendant, Bryan Christopher Kohberger, and counsel Ann Taylor, comes now, the state of Idaho, by and through Latah County prosecuting attorney, submits Exhibit S1 filed under seal in response to defendant's windows open, to defendant's 22nd supplemental request for discovery that was filed on the 28th of January 28, 2025. I'll have to go back and look at that one. The state incorporates the following responses, and they go and list all of the responses they've done in the past as to why they've already handed over this said discovery. The state incorporates the following responses as fully set forth at this point. The state's response to request discovery filed on January 23rd of 2023. The state's response to defendant's first supplemental request for discovery filed February 21st, 23rd. State's response to defendant's second supplemental request for discovery filed back in March 29th of 2023. State's response to defendant's third supplemental request. State's response to defendant's motion to compel. State's supplemental response, and it goes on and on and on. They're listing all the times they came back with them, telling them, we've given it to you, we've given it to you, we've given it to you, whatever this is particular thing she's looking for, right? And I don't know particularly what Ann's looking for in that document, but we'll have to wait and see. But like I said, there was nothing interesting that come down, no decisions yet on any of those motions, and the transcripts haven't dropped yet, and Frank's hearing decision hasn't been dropped yet. Exactly. I keep bringing that up, difficult research. Everybody wants to holler about that over here in Idaho with all these, that's a lot of requests for discovery, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but did y'all watch the Vallow trial? They literally took the DP off the table because the prosecution failed to turn over discovery at deadline. And you don't think Ann Taylor Taylor and Bill Thompson are aware of that. Discovery. You can't even bring it in once if you don't put it into evidence, and then you just can't. So yeah, if they miss any discovery deadlines that the judge sets up, they're in trouble. Yes, they've mentioned it. It's been mentioned, but we have no proof that they're not turning over what Anne is requesting. And if you go back and actually watch a lot of the hearings, a lot of what Anne was requesting was FBI communications. Of course, she wanted Maori and all their communications, but with the FBI, because the FBI is her target because they performed the IgG. And if she can get that IgG somehow, tossed away, because it's not going to be brought into court anyway. But if she can prove they went illegally into a back door, it may not even help her, because like the judge said, that doesn't pertain to Bryan Kohberger's privacy. It contains to everybody else's privacy that was involved, and that's on them. Right? You're calling the Daily Mail with the info. What did I miss?
Daily Mail is, I think Daily Mail is the UK, like, Inquirer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you have to take Daily Mail with a grain of salt. And Howard Bloom, as always, that's who because everybody's got their feelings on Howard Bloom, who's wrote the book, about Idaho. Before the case was even over, he's already got a damn book out and claims to have sources this and sources that. But he works, that's where a lot of the excerpts from the book were being dropped first. You know what I mean? So I'm well aware that they're, like I said, take them and anything they put out, but anything you see with a grain of salt, right? When I watch mainstream media, if and when I ever do, I don't take what they told me to heart. I'm like, let me go look in my own investigation here and see what I come up with,
Why they
Like,
call you salty? Why do they call you salty?
Cause I'm smart ass sometimes. I can't help it. Oh yeah, okay, gotcha. Sometimes it's hard to follow chat. Like, what are y'all talking about? I don't mean to get it confused. I try to keep up, but yeah. I mean, I think there's just a lot. A lot gets sideways in that Kohberger case, and I don't know if the guy did it or not yet. I haven't seen enough proof. I'm not supposed to see it all until we get to actual trial. Like I said, if we are done with trials in America, hell, we're done. This is, it can't be like that. But all these, the motions hearings and all that, that's their rights as defendants to have all that done. So we just got to play along till it all plays out, So it'll be interesting to see what the judge's decisions will be on the all the motions that Ann's filed and what he decides to do with the Franks hearing. And I want those transcripts, because we want to do that reading. But guys, I'm gonna have to let you go for the day. I'm starting to feel a little worn down, but I appreciate all you coming in and hanging out with us this morning and watching my little update on the Patties do their interview. And let me go address that situation here in a little bit. See if I don't get a strike or in trouble. I have to go back in my YouTube studio and look and get the real deal here. But I appreciate you guys coming in, being respectful in chat as usual. We love the conversation you guys are having and your thoughts, sharing them. That's what it's all about. It's not just up here, you guys listening to me and Joe talk about it, but we also want to know what you think and discuss your thoughts on it, because they're just as important as ours. We're no different than you guys are. There's nothing about me special. I'm not a criminology student. I'm not a lawyer and all that good stuff. I am just an armchair detective like the rest of us. So we all do the best we can here. And I appreciate it. Thank you, Danger. Yeah, guys, it said a second ago, and I'm so horrible at this stuff, but it says I've got 104 views with 29 likes. So if y'all could hit that like button on the way out.
Yeah, hit that like button, people. Come on.
Oh, I get way more views than I do likes, so I don't know if they're hate watching or I'm not sure what's happening. It doesn't matter. It's gotten me views. So if you're hate watching, hey, welcome in. If you're just lurkers, that's fine too. If you're chatters, come on in. But yeah, please hit the like button. It does matter. And thanks, Texas Ranger. Thanks all of you guys, Tinsel, everybody for coming in. V, as always, we love you, girl. Difficult Research, we always love having you here. Joe, thank you again for coming in and co-hosting with me this morning. It's always good to have you up here with me.
It's good
All
to
right,
be
guys.
here.
Well, thank you. And I don't know, I was going to have both grandbabies this weekend, but my daughter's a nurse, and she said that they've been having a lot of flu come through her office, and she's super picky with my granddaughter. And the fact that me and the grandson are both just recovering from the flu, I'm not getting her this weekend. So I won't have the kids this weekend. So I'm going to be up and running on Sunday for sure as my usual, but we might do a tomorrow night show. It all depends on how I feel. Okay. I'll let you guys know. All right, Joe, when's your next show planned? Do you have a next plan or?
What is today?
It's Thursday. I checked because it's the 13th, and I was like, is it Friday the 13th? Tomorrow's that Valentine's Day thing that everybody wants to throw their. I don't do Valentine's Day.
Yeah, go.
I'm a girl, and I ain't never done. I'm not. Ugh. Look, today is my unanniversary. I accidentally got married one time on February 13th.
What? Are you serious?
It wasn't accidentally. I mean, I didn't want to do it when I was doing it, but I was told that it was probably the best thing for us to do was go ahead. Y'all been together 7 years. You got 3 kids. You got property. You might as well get married. Okay. And while I'm standing there getting married on February 13th, I'm thinking to myself, what the hell are you doing? Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, so if you go and watch my interview with Megan, you will see that she actually divorced her husband on February 14th on Valentine's Day.
I saw that. And when she said that, I was like, you go girl, because I'm right there with you. I can buy myself flowers.
Right.
Write my name in the sand.
Tomorrow is her Independence Day. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can talk to myself for hours and say things you don't understand.
Yeah, so so we might take Friday off and then go Saturday morning. Like the last Saturday morning broadcast we did was successful, so we may do that.
Yeah, maybe we can do our little Holman party or something.
Oh, yes. Oh, there's an idea.
Let's do it.
I like
right?
it. I like it.
Yes. So you guys make sure you keep an eye out for Joe's notifications and all that good stuff, and hit the notification button. So if we rehash Jerry Holman's interview, we won't get in trouble this time.
Wouldn't that be funny if they tried to copyright strike me again? Like do a double copyright strike if we go do a watch party? That would be crazy.
You know what? I don't know if she would do it a second time. Like I said, it's going to take her some money eventually.
V, have you gotten accidentally married?
Look, difficult research. Really, I did not realize. Wow.
Do you see V's comment?
I only did it once, girl. Once was enough for me. I don't need a bunch of ex-husbands. I'm not like Lori Vallow. I'm not that girl. I don't need you. Get away from me. You bother me. We need separate houses and all that good stuff. So I'm a loner, and I crave my time alone. I'm not like the average person. So I don't have to have people around me constantly. Like if I don't get my alone time, I'm all out of sorts. So yeah, marriage once was enough. This morning my son said something to me. I was like, you need to run to the corner store and get me a bag of ice or some shit. He's like, again? I was like, look, dude, I'm not married to nobody, and I divorced your father years ago. Give me the keys to your truck. I'll go get it my damn self. Oh, I got you, Mom. I'm like, don't question me. Don't. I ain't having it. But anyway, so for those of you who do celebrate Valentine's and you have that significant other and all that good stuff, y'all have a good time tomorrow. Celebrate your love.
And then we'll catch you on the other side.
Right? All right, guys. Thanks for being here. I super appreciate you all. Have a great day.
Thank you all for watching.